2000 presidential election is one of the most controversial presidential elections in American history. George W. Bush won the presidential election by winning Florida. However, if felon voting laws were not in existence, he would not have won the election. Felons are the most disenfranchised population in America. The largest felon disenfranchisement population is the African American males. There are more African American males disenfranchised due to these laws than were given to the right to vote by the 15th Amendment. The original felon disenfranchisement laws permanently disenfranchised felons. Once convicted, they were no longer able to vote. As a matter of fact, these laws were created as a way to prevent the newly freed African Americans from voting. These laws, unlike many of the other voting prevention laws like the Grandfather Clause, polling tax, and the literacy test, were not removed by the Voting Rights Act of 1965. After the 2000 presidential election, more states began amending their felon voting rights. There are 4 common forms of amendments. There are only 2 states, Maine and Vermont, that have no felon voting restriction. In addition, there are the states that allow felons to vote once they have completed their incarceration. There are also the states that allow felons to vote once they have completed their incarceration and parole. Then, there are the states that allow felons to vote once they have completed incarceration, parole, and probation. Finally, there are the states that permanently disenfranchise their felons. For some of these, there is an application and a board hearing process. Why do some states amend while others do not? One of the main theories is that the more minorities living in the state, the stricter the felon voting law. Another theory that does not seem to hold as true to the more Democrats in the control of the state, the more likely it is for the state to amend. However, many states are outliers either because the state had a majority of Republicans in power when the laws were amended, or because the majority of Democrats in the power made the law stricter. Let's focus on 2 states. The 2 main outliers to the pre-established theory are Massachusetts and Florida. Then, in 1975, Democratic Governor Reuben Askew amended the felon voting laws to restore the felon voting rights after incarceration and parole were completed. During the 1990s, under the Democratic Governor Lawton Chiles, the voting laws were strengthened once again. This time, felons were permanently disenfranchised until they appealed directly to a board similar to a board of parole. They had to wait 5 years after incarceration, parole, or probation was complete, and they were no longer living in a halfway house. Most of these applications were denied or deemed ineligible. In 2007, Republican Governor Charlie Crist altered these laws once again. He altered them to have an automatic restoration after incarceration, parole, and probation were complete. Then in 2011, Governor Rick Scott assumed office and removed automatic restoration and went back to the board process. In contrast, in 2000, Massachusetts became one of the only states to make their felon voting law stricter. These laws came from an executive order that prevented felons from voting while incarcerated. Today, Attorney General Eric Holder has sued the states that have permanent felon disenfranchisement in hopes that they will amend. Maybe one day all of us can vote regardless of felon status.